Hey, look! I can fly here as high as I want! Isn't it amazing?
The skull went up as fast as it could. In a moment, it was lost among the clouds. Much closer to the ground, the sage wanders through a seemingly infinite field of grass and flowers. From time to time, he gazes upon the priest and otherwise enjoys watching the never-changing horizon. At one point, he looks at a plain space before him and wishes to rest. A tree rises from the ground before him, growing high enough to make a perfect shadow underneath itself. The sage leans onto the trunk and sits down. Shortly after, the skull flies back to him, straight up his face.
I told you it's great here. Glad you wanted to stay. Anyway, I didn't expect you to go here first. You know, when allegedly one of the most important gods in the whole world is waiting for you.
As I was told, I shall come when ready. For now, I must think of what I want to ask, if given any chance.
But it's been already 2 days. Aren't you curious of what he has to say?
I do, but there's no need to be impatient.
I don't know what exactly is going through your head right now, but you have to ask yourself, does it really help you to wait? Don't you already know everything you want to say?
Huh. Maybe you're right, priest. Being put before a situation like this, I cannot really think straight. Do you reckon that I should just go?
From what I know, you were always ready for anything. What's the difference this time?
Good question. The sage stands up as the whole scenery around him dissolves, revealing a small, isolated room in the temple with nothing in it other than the door leading out of it. Without further ado, the sage goes out of this room and heads towards the entrance of this temple. The skull slowly follows him, not questioning anything else. When they reach the main hall, the sage is mesmerized by the enormous gate guarding the entry. His attention is then caught by the shouting skull, which flew closer to one of the walls. There's a very small recess in the stone, a place hard to spot. When the sage comes closer to it, he sees a defective reliquary. Not really much to see there. Few candles on the sides, a small plain box in the middle, and on the stone wall above it, an engraved eye, burning and bleeding, looks at anyone standing underneath it.
Here, just touch the box and Ming will appear. Well, at least so I've heard.
The sage looks at the priest for the last time and then focuses on the reliquary. He feels no presence from it, and so decides to inspect it with magic. He proceeds to take a scroll from his belt and puts a piece of glass to his eye. After speaking the written words of incantation, the scroll turns to dust, and air around the sage faintly wobbles. He can sense the air becoming warmer, and so he now knows. This whole place is sacred, of course, but he's sure that the reliquary itself is closely connected to those powers, as the magical air around it flows much faster. The sage then dismisses the spell, and everything goes back to normal. He lays his hand on the box, and so nothing happens. He waits patiently, and before he knows it, he's completely somewhere else. There is no box before him, no priest beside him, and there is no temple around him. Black, feathered smoke floats everywhere. As the sage pulls himself behind and tries to see anything else in this place, he spots the smoke coming down. Many parts of it merge with each other in front of the sage, and someone's visage is being shaped out of them. A hooded, human-looking creature with cape-like long wings, covered fully in crow feathers, constantly moving as if they were living themselves. Its face is not seen, hidden behind a mask-shaped smoke of feathers.
Glad you've made yourself comfortable in this temple of mine. Here I be, Mink is the name. Welcome to my dear home, Vanitus.
So, this is how God of Reality presents himself. My pleasure. Only a few days ago I've learned that you might have much more in store than I ever thought.
And all of it you'll see for yourself. This place, a great example of what is to come. You're eager to learn, and learn you will. In time, when you'll become an interceptor. But for the time being, I don't want to leave you barehanded. Tell me, what did you expect from me to say?
I expected to hear about the reason for all of this. I suppose you know what I want now?
I do, but I'm not the one to ask. You see, knowing everything what is makes all of it insignificant. How about this? Instead, you tell me what you wish to know.
I didn't expect that. One would think the god should lead the talk.
What can I say? I'm not a god you think of. Treat me as one of your own, for deep in our mind and soul, we all are equal.
Alright then. Let's start with what you just said. How so, you know everything?
There exist 4 major powers in the universe. First is independent of us. It creates the rules of how everything works and nothing can predict it or change. The higher power, emotions and aspects of them, about which you will learn soon. Other 3 are subjects of change and are dependent on decisions. Those powers are space, time and balance. Each one is kept by the represented guardians, and I rule over this space. While the universe is much more than this plane of ours, everything that is a part of this plane of existence is a part of me. I don't lie when I speak of myself as a mirror image of the world. I see, hear and feel everything that is present. Thus, it's quite easy for me to predict what will happen. Although predictions are short-sighted, for the future and the past lay within boundaries of the timekeeper. And the balance something in between, a conduct for space and time which protects the world from itself.
Interceptors, are here to become the keepers of balance. Are there already existing interceptors?
No. Truth be told, only space has its guardian. The other 2 at the moment are left without any patronage. The universe cannot stay like this forever, and so I hope to find keepers for them, interceptors being a solution for balance.
Are you some kind of a grand god? Are you a creator of our world? If not, who are you really, if you can decide to give someone such powers?
I am not the first one to come, but I took his toll, for he's no longer here. This is the truth I cannot yet speak of, before you become one of the interceptors.
Isn't it decided? For us all to become keepers of balance.
That is my intention, nothing more. Predictions alone may not lead to desired outcome, and so I must remain silent about the origin.
I see. That's why there are so many of us.
All I know is that at least one of you will become an interceptor. For time and balance cannot stay without their protectors, and the universe will try to fill this void.
You haven't yet spoken about the knowledge. I understand it is a part of this world, and that's why it is here with you. Is it truly all the knowledge from the very beginning?
It is, yes. These pages contain everything that ever happened and constantly are being filled with what occurs.
Then why usage of it is stagnant? Outside it seems that the history disappears and people cannot learn about mistakes of the past. Why is it hidden?
You have yet to understand the secrets of it. Let me tell you this, you are special. No one should live past thousands of years. The world has its cycles, knowledge disappears, history blends in, but there's no one to see and tell about it. When the time comes, everything seamlessly meets its end. For the outside, it looks normal. The very moment we are speaking, first and final generation of vampires, True Bloods, is coming to an end. It had to be this way, and so the universe forced a situation for it to happen. For everyone out there, it's just a tragedy made out of humans' fear. It's not the first time and not the last for something like this to happen. Each thousand of years has its own evils and goods. On both sides are those with power to survive longer than expected. Survival of the fittest, eras of heroes of their own times. Some are deemed worthy to stay and some are not. Either way, an end to their known story will come. That is the circle of lost heroes.
Fascinating. But why does it happen? I cannot yet see a reason for such specific process which comes from the nature of the universe itself.
There is always danger of higher power to emerge. The universe has its rules and beings in control of it all, but given enough time, everyone can reach powers of a god. From that point forward, they are able to gain immortality, no longer being bound by the time. They may become even stronger than the rules themselves. That's why creatures of this plane of existence naturally live no longer than thousands of years.
What about those who live longer than that? Surely I cannot be the only one.
The world has its place for those who reach such powers. Most of them become gods, or a more complicated part of this whole ecosystem. Good and evil, chaotic and lawful, knowingly or not, they all work together. Only sometimes an anomaly appears. Without all of those three powers controlled, there is a constant risk of imbalance. When I took upon myself the burden of space, there already was a being more powerful than anything we ever knew. Aspect of nightmares. If it would be still with us here, it could destroy or take control of this world with a single thought. It is now imprisoned in the center of the universe, far away from our reach. And the place it was created in is isolated from the rest of the world where it also should meet its end. In your case, you yourself are a researcher, finder of truth. You fit well the role of an interceptor, especially with your unique origin.
And so comes my next question. Do you know what I am? My mother was a human, and so my father. My mother died of old age before I knew it, and I found out about my father's death hundreds of years after he left home. I was alone, still well. How come I am so different from them? Why am I still in perfectly healthy condition?
Yes, I know your race. There are not many of you, but there will be more to come. You are tied to the being I mentioned, aspect of nightmares. Your race is completely severed from dreams, so we can stay free of his tempting influence. In case of failure for the current plan to destroy this aspect, you, Kalashtas, will be our last little hope. As for your complete origin, that's something I cannot tell you much about. Even if you become an interceptor, there are still secrets I have to keep.
A short silence after Ming has spoken. The sage isn't satisfied. He cannot abandon searching for his past. He's irritated. He wants to know the whole truth about his cursed bloodline. Is this knowledge also stored in this library?
No, that's the only exception. Some secrets cannot be risked with being written, for their keeping is of much higher importance.
Then I suppose that's all I would like to know.
There's a lot for you to learn, and there's time for all of that. Your path to becoming an interceptor becomes now. Clear your mind, connect with the others, and most importantly, think and ask. I am always listening, for I know everything that is. I am everything that is. Come back here exactly after 40 days. We'll talk about your progress then.
Ming raises one of its wings and space around them starts to shift. Before the sage is brought back to the temple, he raises his hand and Ming stops this process. One more question before you go. Priest, the soul within the skull, was he sent by you? Without any expressions and answers, Ming continues his magic and the sage appears in front of the reliquary, emerging from the smoke. I'll take it as a yes.
Whoa, what was that? You completely disappeared for a few minutes. Did you meet him? The god? How was it?
Talkative, as I expected. But he wasn't the god I imagined. The brother was right. He tricked all of the world and hid his true identity.
You seem a little worried. If he didn't give you any task, maybe we could go back to the cool room where the reality bends to our thoughts?
I suppose that's the best I can do for now. But I do have something else in mind for the next days ahead.
Oh, and what could that be?